5.
I really hope I'm in my rule of third because it would really piss me off if I wasn't. But guys, I am sitting here so late in the evening. It's actually 9 p.m. It's not too late. It's not as late as I normally would film, but I'm sitting here so late because my subbies have been on my motherfucking ass for this part 2, okay? What's up, you guys, and welcome back to another video by your ultimate fave. If you are new here today, then you don't know what all this drama is about, and you're wondering why I am just barefaced with like some lip gloss. But for all the returning subscribers, I am finally giving you guys what you deserve. The part 2 you guys have been asking for since y'all even heard of me. And honestly, I am so hungry that I'm not even going to get into the gist of it. We're just gonna jump right into it, but I'm just gonna give a quick recap for anybody who doesn't know what happened on the first story, right? So let's have a sip of our drinky drink. So this is a meal I actually made yesterday. I was in the mood for something nice and cozy and hearty. I was actually supposed to film the story time yesterday, well, part 2 of the story time. And if you guys don't know what part 1 is, I released it a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember what the title was, but I was wearing pink and I had a pink themed makeup look, so look out for that. It's my last story time and people have been on my ass about part 2, so we are gonna do part 2 today. So I know my faves always want the first bite, so let's get into it. I made the rice and the cabbage and the meat myself. I know it looks like there's a lot of meat, guys. Pick and Pay. Why is that Pick and Pay? It's bones with bits of meat, guys. I do a lot of weightlifting, so I made sure not to eat all day so that I can enjoy this meal. So ultimate faves, thank you so much for bullying me enough into doing part 2. And here's your little your one. I don't want to stretch it too much because, you know. My favorite hot sauce right now on the market. Yes! Yes! That's some good food, child. But my favorite hot sauce on the market right now is the kitchen hot sauce. I actually found this through, I know him as Asisipo, but you guys probably know him on social media as Sean_B. He recommended this along of my other like Twitter faves. They recommended this. Guys, I'm actually gonna get hot. I'm feeling like this thing is gonna bother me when I wanna dive in. So I think I'm gonna take it off. So, without rambling too much, let's get into the crux of it. In part 1 of the story time, where we ended, or what I told you guys, is that obviously Woody or Goody or whatever I call him, because I noticed that throughout the part 1, I kept confusing Woody versus Goody. Initially I said it was Goody, then I started calling him Woody. But in my defense, I was drunk as fuck, right? Guys, call me to cook at your weddings. Call me to cook at your funerals. But anyway, you guys know in the first part of the story time, I met this guy called Woody, and him and I, we kicked it off at this place where we met, and then he took me out on a date and things went wrong. But now what I didn't tell you guys that's going to lead to part 2 is how we got to part 2. All right, cool. So these are the missing pieces that make part 2 the hottest story time that you guys will ever see in the history of hottest story times. Not hotter than the Adam one, but sure as hell hot AF. Oh, man. The flavors. So in part 1, what I told you guys is that, remember that night where Goody and Success went on like a binge drinking spree? They went to Rosebank and he never said anything to me and I kept quiet and I slept. Then he came back with some snob excuse about this, that, and the third. Remember that night? This is why you guys need to watch part 1, because I'm not going to delve into those certain elements, okay? This is all about part 2. That night when he did that, that was when I realized that, you know what, I don't have time for this guy's mess, and I don't think I like this guy as much as I think I do. So at that time, when I was entertaining Woody, Goody, Hoodie, let's call him Hoodie because he's a bit of a hood nigga. When I was entertaining him, I was also entertaining other guys on the side. You understand? Like, entertaining is a bit of a stretch. I was talking to other guys. So, obviously, the reason why Goody took center stage was because I met him, and all the other guys I was talking to on social media. I had gotten into dating apps by that time. I was really all about that dating app thingamabob. Like, I was really into the whole dating app era. I was trying to get onto Hinge. And side note, there was a point where I was on Hinge and I almost matched with a guy named Hakeem, and then I went on TikTok and I realized that he's a TikTok scammer. So if you guys ever match on Hinge with a guy named Hakeem, he'll probably steal your phone. Don't shoot me, I'm just the messenger. Well, he wanted to match with me, but I didn't text him enough. But anyway, so at the time that I was talking to Goody, I think there was also this guy that had been chasing me in my DMs for a long time. Twitter DMs, to be specific. The day I do story times on the Twitter niggas that have been in my DMs, that have been exposed for being the roto and being womanizers. This guy was in my Twitter DMs. No, he was never exposed for anything like that. But there were a couple of guys who were actually in my DMs, who were on Twitter, who were just being exposed for being like shitty ass people. But that's fine. Like, that's neither here nor there. It's none of my business. But there was this one particular guy that had been in my DMs for a while. And there's a nickname that I want to give to him, but because he's going to match that feature, I'm not actually going to do that. And besides, I still have feelings for this guy, but I just hated how we ended. Like, I didn't appreciate some of the things that he was doing towards me cutting him off, essentially. You guys will get that. But essentially, I met this guy. For story's sake, I'm going to call him... I want to call him Big Babe, but now. Let's call him Sweetie Pie. Sharp. So, no. Let's call him Bzam. Because clearly me and hood niggas, the love that I have for hood niggas will always have a hold on me, yo. Even I think about it, can we pick up where we left off? I'm actually going to text him and ask him if he's okay. But anyway, let's call him Bzam. So, right after the whole situation with Goody and Successful, where basically Goody just went MIA that night, I had then just kind of realized that was my first red flag, and that was a red flag I wasn't going to let slide. Like, I mean, I felt some type of way about it, but I was just like, you know what, I can already tell, like, I'm not feeling this nigga like that, and I can already tell that we've only been speaking for about 3 days, and if you're going to turn on something you said 2 days ago, I don't know what you're capable of. So, sharp. Then comes that Saturday. That Saturday of the week when Goody and Successful went out. That Saturday morning, I'm casually scrolling on Twitter. DMs. Yo, Bzam, I think he reacted to some tweet or something. Like, he always responded to my tweets, but I never took him seriously because just off his facial features, like, you could see, like, this is a bad bitch. Like, he had everything. Like, he just had the looks, he had the height, he had the voice, he had... I'm gonna text him. I'm blocking him once more. Hi, Bo! My number's just deleted. Oh, no! I know. Anyway, Karen. So with Bzam, he had everything that I would normally not drift towards in terms of like a relationship perspective, because I felt like he was kind of sort of the ideal man for a lot of women. And because I don't really drift towards men like him, who look like him, aesthetic wise, I was just like, nah. So that particular Saturday, I was sitting at home because in my mind, I don't know if Goody and I had said that we were going to do something, but because I was already kind of peeved off about what he did with Successful day prior or 2 days prior, I was just like, you know what, I'm not going to keep all my eggs in one box. So fine, Bzam texts me and he's like, man, let's do lunch. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. Now in my mind, I'm thinking he's based like far from me, but turns out we're actually closer to each other than we thought. Okay, cool. We talk in the DMs, and I tell him, hey, let's meet here and have lunch, because You've been nothing but so adorable. And I obviously haven't been taking it seriously because of seeing the girls cry on the TL over Twitter, niggas. Mind you guys are not even crying over beautiful men. You're crying over interestingly, aesthetically interesting. You're crying over aesthetically interesting looking men. Okay. So he's on the aesthetically pleasing side. Like he's a good looking guy. And he's like, nah, if you're not doing anything, let's link up. Sharp. Naledi saying, Mallela bed, let's link up. We link up for lunch. That lunch date goes so well. Throughout the lunch date, guys, when I get to the lunch date, I think I got there before him. He was just running a little bit late. And then while he was running late, I remember Goody texting me on some, dude, are we okay? Like the tone in your voice or the tone in your texting has changed. And that's something about me. Like when you piss me off, I can't pretend that we're grand when we're not. You will tell in the change of the tone of my texting because I'm someone who texts with emojis. I'm someone who texts with like love. I'm someone who's like, hey babe, hi baby. So if I say hi, you're in the dog box. So I'm waiting for pause. I am. Goody's now blowing up my phone on some, are we grand? And I'm like, nah, we are. Wow. He's like, nah, man, your tone has changed and you don't usually like type like this. And I'm like, listen, I am a little bit irritated about something, but I'll talk to you about it later. Because I need to prepare for my dates. How? It's called multi-dating, whatever that girl called it. Whatever that young, beautiful lady called it. My apologies. Because I am gets there. We have an amazing date. And the thing about him that was really my favorite aspect is how much he made me laugh. Guys, very few men can come into my life and make a woman like me laugh. Very few. Like I laugh because of the situation, the circumstance. But it's very few and far in between that I laugh because a man makes me laugh. No. I just love to make you feel like you're a man. But he made me laugh. And the date was wonderful, man. Like the date was great. So throughout the course of the date, there was a point where we started talking about if we're seeing other people. Because he was just like, dude, I've liked you for a long time. And I'd kind of like to explore where this thing is going on like an intimate level. So in the sense, I'm not just trying to be your friend. And I mean, if we're going to set the boundaries of where we're going, I kind of sort of want you. And this is my setup. And I'm interested in getting to know you. And I was like, you know what? You are the kind of nigga I would actually want to fuck with. There were certain things about him. You know what? Let me just use a knife and stop being a ghetto-ass rat. But essentially, there was nothing about him that struck me as a red flag. Nothing. There was just only one thing he did that put me off. But even that for me was not a red flag. I just really felt like he was trying to pull a guy move. And he wasn't considerate of... We're still too early in like our talking stage for him to be wanting something of that degree. But it's nothing sexual related, so don't even worry about it. But anyway, fine. While we're sitting there having the date and talking about whether we are talking to other people, I casually tell him that there's this one guy I've been speaking to, and I actually make a joke about it. And I'm like, yo, you know what? Actually, the reason I'm on this date is because he's been doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and da 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 da. And we're having a casual chat about it. And I don't even know how we got to the conversation of me telling him Goody's name. I don't even know. Like, I don't even know. But again, I'm someone who's super transparent. No? Super transparent. And I do remember at some point throughout that date, Goody called me. But I think that was after I had already told him who I'm like, on the side. Sure. So eventually we get to the, who's this guy that you're talking to? I tell him Goody. And he goes, small world. And I'm like, why? What do you mean? And he's like, no, I know him. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, okay. But judging from the way that he said that I know him, you could tell like there's a story behind it, but not a good one. But he didn't say anything bad. He was just like, I know him. Like, I know him through one of my boys. Like, as in, he's friends with someone that I'm friends with. So, like, we are acquaintances, but we're not mutuals. Like, so him and I, he can sit in one corner, I can sit in one corner, and that would be fine. Cool. There's no beef between us. There's no nothing. But he was very tight-lipped about the nature of this. I know this guy. He said nothing. And I remember egging him on sama because obviously I could tell by the change in his behavior. When I said he was sitting forward and I was like, oh no, it's good. He was like he smiled and he looked that way. And I was like, why? He's like, oh, him. And I'm like, what is it? And he's like, no, honestly, I know him. Like, we're acquaintances. We're not friends, but we're acquaintances. But I can vouch for Bzam and say that he never said anything bad about Goody. So then the date comes to an end. Now, guess who? Naledi makes the suggestion that Bzam comes to my place so we can chill and have drinks, né? Because honestly, guys, like, this is a down-to-earth guy. Him and I have been following each other for years. He definitely did not look like the type who was going to steal my phone or steal my furniture. And I know what you guys are going to say. Oh my God, you're so trusting. Yes, maybe I am. But that's the reason why I'm so famous right now, ain't it? I sit here and I tell you guys all the dumb shit I did so you guys can learn from it. So shut up and take the story. Don't piss me the fuck off. But anyway, guys, he did not look like a thief. No, he's not. He's not a thief. Thank you. He's not a thief. I can tell you guys with 110%. I'm not gonna get into how, but he's not a thief. So I'm like to him, nah. Come to my place, let's chill, have some drinks. I've got a nice garden. We can buy like a bottle and chill because Ranong, we did the whole lunch thing. He paid for it. So I was just like, you know what? Maybe we can do an after thing, like where we can chill together, just get to know each other because he seems like a nice guy. He has his own car. He's got a good job. And he's someone that I can find if he steals from me. You get. So he's like, nah, babes. I'm like, oh, I can come to your place and chill. Because he was also offering, like, I could come to his place, right? But I obviously don't feel comfortable at other people's houses. Like, it's just a thing for me. I think with the amount of people by loyang kamukantle and the amount of people by beandin tokata sa dibete and la loye and linaldi krito la fasa. You guys are my age and you're doing shit that grannies are doing. Like, you guys, like, it's disgusting to know the amount of women that go to the sangoma huloya bashimani. Like, dude, get a hobby, get a job, get something, get a life. Like, reflect, repent. You spend your daily bread and butter and all that other shit. Nah, boy. Nah. But anyway, I was like, I don't want to go to his place because I obviously didn't feel safe and my place is much safer. So even if he were to try attempt to do something to me, he wouldn't really get that far. So that's fine. And then I got home and I think I was a bit slizzard and I passed out. So it's safe to say that the whole link up at each other's houses between myself and Bzam never happened. So y'all motherfuckers can relax. And honestly, he wasn't pushy. He really wasn't pushy. Okay. So that was the missing piece of the information that you guys needed to hear. Fast forward to back to the date with Goody's successful's girl, Sham. I just love me a good part 2 that makes you think. Go back. Like, I just love the little building blocks. You know, guys, that's the one thing I told myself I'm going to do this year. I'm going to leave certain parts out and then put them in part 2 so you guys can connect the pieces of the puzzle. And also, I don't want to take away from Goody. Okay, I'm done. Anyway, fast forward back to the day that Goody took me out on the date that day. What I didn't tell you guys was, he takes me out on the date. I look good. I look cute. And then we decide to have a quick lunch before we meet up with Successful. Right? Like we said, we got there first. I had my Long Island. We're chilling, we're talking. Now, in that conversation that we had, I was so hungry. I want to talk, but I also want to eat. In that conversation that we had when we sat down, we were talking about elements, like I said, we could not mention about Goody because it involved his previous romantic relationship. But the reason why I couldn't mention it was because then it was going to bring in Bzam, and I hadn't explained who Bzam was. So really sorry to everybody involved, but then again, nobody was sorry when they did that shit to me, so I guess it's all systems go. When I sat down and I had a conversation, one of the conversations that I had an issue with, or one of the red flags that I noticed was, and I think I mentioned it in the previous story time, is that it wasn't what he said, it was the manner in which he spoke about his previous relationships that really caused the problem for me, because I was just like, what is happening? So at the date where he's obviously were having that hash down, that sit down, that I didn't like this, and I'm really starting to worry about the type of person you can become when you are influenced by your friends, because I'm old, like I'm a grown-ass woman. We then start talking about, and then I decided, now with my big mouth, I decided to tell him I actually did something that is so not in my character, but I did it because I could see it's not looking like it's going to be serious, so we don't have to force ourselves into something serious. Now, mind you, at that same date, we were still talking about how he felt about my friendship with Adam, right? But then that day, I then told him, there is something that I did this weekend that I think you should know about, because I can tell that you take me on this date, that this could be serious. And like I said, I did like Goody. He was my first pick. He was my first pick in the grander scheme of things, that he's the guy I saw and the guy I was instantly attracted to. It's not like I met him where there were like variable other guys. So he was the first pick by, automatically the first pick. But also the first pick in the sense that we spent more time together before I even met Bzam. Sham. So then I decided to tell him that I actually went on a date and I went with this guy, and now I need to explain the thinking process of why I did this. Now, because Bzam was so tight-lipped about the nature of the relationship, or the nature of the acquaintanceship, that's not a word, but okay, between him and Goody, I decided I'm going to ask Goody, because I can't trust Bzam. I don't know him that well. But then I also did something with Bzam, and after seeing that reaction about me having went out with Goody and Bzam making that face, I knew to some degree, and they get ahead of the situation, and they get in the front of the situation, so that I can just so around it to get ahead. So Cooper getting ahead of the situation, Ndivala is footsteps Bzam. I'm not thinking that there's something deeper than this. I'm thinking shit, because he knows, because I could tell that there was some tension there, and because I'm going on a date with him, I can't get ahead so that he doesn't hear through acquaintance, the friend that they had, that I went on a date with the both of them, which is factual, true, and 100% logical. So I was like, before Ichiga, Naledi's playing the field, of which I definitely was, of which I definitely can, of which I definitely have a right to, but not like that. Sharp. And I come hore ke etsa di-date, Goody ne ke sa mo jwetsa, Bzam yena na tseba, because ke mo jweditse off the cap. Goody o ntsebile ke sena motho, ke sena le ntja ya ntja, ke sena le katse ya katse, e le nna, mara e le nna le Adam, mara who cares, because vele le yena na ntse etsa masepa. So Adam vele ne ke mo khutile ka mo le side, just for rainy days, of which Adam has been the best umbrella that anyone's ever had in the history of having my umbrellas, as per Rohana's songs. But how khutleleng ho this thing? Ne ke re ke kena ka pele this thing. Ne ke re nna this thing ke tlo itshwara before it tshwarana. So I'm like, no, I wanted to tell you so that you obviously don't find out in funny ways. The world is really small, and because this happened, because you did this, I felt like I was questioning everything you said at my place, and I went on a date with someone, and whilst having that date with someone, I then figured out that this is someone that knows you. So I just don't want you to be in the dark about knowing that I went on a date with this person, because I wouldn't want you finding out via friends or anything. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. Who is that? Gotta pause, I am. Yo! I'm like, huh? I'm like, Bzam. He's like, I'm like, what? I'm like, what? But on KWN, what? I know him. So I'm like, yeah, he mentioned that you guys know each other. So like I said, I was trying to tell you so that you don't feel some type of way, because I had no idea in the world that you guys knew each other. And mind you, this is someone I knew way before I even knew who you were. So I'm like, no, I know that you guys know each other, because on the day that him and I linked up, I tweeted about wanting food. I've known him longer than I've known you, but I knew him like as mutuals. And he was like, then he mentions, remember a certain story that I told you about one of my exes? I'm like, yes. He's like, he's the one who did it. I'm like, yeah? I'm like, yeah. So there was a certain incident that he told me, obviously in a very vulnerable state, and I believed him. There was no reason not to believe him, and I was really sad. But he never told me that it was Bzam. He told me a lot of incidents, but I never isolated, or I would have never assumed. Like, I don't know any of these guys personally. You need to understand, like, I was getting into my dating bag, and I didn't know any of them personally enough to know anyone who would be connected to them to ask about these people. So I would have never even guessed in a million years, because the one guy I met via Adam, and the other guy I met on Twitter. So I would have never even guessed. So he's like, no, remember the one incident I told you about my ex and I, da-da-da? And I'm like, yeah, and he's like, he was the guy who was behind all of that mess. I'm like, what? So now, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, I've betrayed Goody. I went out with the guy that wrecked his happy home, and, you know, with the guy that caused so much turmoil in his relationship. He's like, I'm quite cut up about it. Like, and he's like, run it back. Like, how exactly did you guys meet? And I'm like, no, dude, look, I can even show you the messages. Like, it was never like I was trying to do something funny to you, because I obviously know the trauma. So I tell him, listen, when I asked him, and I could see that he knows you, he never told me this. So to find out he did something so dirty to you as a nigga is grounds for me to block him. I'll block him. Like, I don't have any qualms with this nigga. I don't have any qualms with this nigga. He's like, no, don't block him. I'm like, no, I don't wanna go on a date and be a pawn in this hatred you guys have for each other. So I'm telling you for free. You told me how you felt. You told me what happened between you and your partner. I'm choosing you. Fuck Bzam. And he's like, yeah, oh, thank you. You're so supportive. And he's like, but no, don't block him. I'm like, okay, cool. So fine, the date goes on, and then the whole thing happens. The whole thing fucking happens. The whole thing fucking happens where he says what he says about my education level. So whilst that is happening that day, now that afternoon, I sent Bzam a heated text, and I'm like, you know what, nah? You didn't tell me what was the relationship between you and Goody, and it's kind of fucked up to know that you would do something like that to another guy, whether he's your friend or acquaintance or not. But to be really honest, I don't want to do this. I am not interested in hanging out with you. This is before was it before or after? It was before the date, because it was only after the date that I realized that no, I don't like Goody anymore. Shab. So before the date, while the date is still happening, I send him a heated text. I'm like, you know, I don't want to do this. I'm not interested. Thank you so much for your time. How could you do this? But it's fine. I know now why you didn't tell me. It's none of my business, but I'm just not interested in pursuing anything with you. But how could you do something like this? So there was a specific thing that was said that he did, and he was like, what? I'm like, yeah, you did it, and that's you, and that's the kind of person you are, and fuck you, Bzam. You're not the boss of me. I'll see Bzam. And I keep saying, I don't want to talk to you. Yay, I don't want to talk to you. The night goes on. As the night goes on, Goody then shows me why he's so good at fucking shit up. He gets blasted. And I end up having to, you know, basically take us home, making the means to take us home. And I get home, and then, like I said, arobale mona kosofi ngodu. Had to all saying, he's like to me, listen, can we sort this out? Like, there was a big thing about him wanting to leave and me not letting him leave because of the influence. Now, I know you guys are gonna say, in the first story. No, I had to be cognizant of the fact that this is someone who's under the influence. I'm not going to let them drive under that state, whether or not I like them or I hate them. So, kamurobadisa mole ka kiemnyako arobala shemwana bathu. Guys, the boys don't like us anymore. So yes, I know you guys are gonna say because of guys, because no so knowledge wala involved, and I was like, I'm just not going to be comfortable if mutu or a driver aya habo or mo ayanting under the influence. No, it's not gonna happen. I'm not comfortable with that. Okay, no, it's fine. The real receipts were about to come into play. The real fucking receipts. I'm gonna tell you what those receipts are. In the morning, I blew up Bzam. No, I think he blew me up. He was like, listen, Naledi, before you cut me off, can we talk? I'm like, what is there to talk about? You did this, which means you're a man who's capable of this, which means, Naledi, isn't Bamangan. Bzam goes and texts that other girl, ex. I'm gonna put on Ewan, your ex, that being goody. Now Bzam texts the girl and like, your ex is going around saying this. Did I ever do this? The girl's like, no, let another girl. Oh my God. No, I told myself I'm not gonna do this. The girl says, and look, I've got no beef with her. Like, I think she's a sweet girl, and you know, she definitely didn't have to be like a casualty in any of this, but definitely her responses said a lot while saying nothing. So she responds back to Bzam. I'm just like, why would he do that? Oh my God, I just hate when people talk about me. People bore me so much. But what she does is she basically relinquishes him of these accusations and says that, no, you did not do this. I don't know why he's going around speaking about me. Womp, this, that, and the third. He sends me a screenshot. He's like, then he sends me another message and like, listen, Naledi, this is exactly why I never wanted to tell you at the date, but like, if you can just give me a chance, can we just sit down and talk? Because there are a lot of things that you have no idea is going on. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Then I obviously, being my hot self, I send the screenshot to Goody. And I'm like, what is this? What does Goody do? Goody supposedly calls this ex. He calls the ex, apparently the ex doesn't pick up. And the ex then calls him back shortly after. And then apparently Goody asks her, like, what the hell's going on? And then apparently ex says, according to Goody's word, oh, no, I don't want to talk about that anymore. But anyway, I just wanted to congratulate you on this achievement, a specific achievement. You've just heard that your ex is accusing basically your other supposed person of, you know, and she's like, no, apparently, according to Goody, but now we've figured out that Goody's a bit of a liar, so now we can't even rate what he's saying. So he says he called her, she didn't answer, she calls back, and then he's like, what is this that I'm hearing? What are you saying? It's like, no, you know what, I don't even want to talk about that anymore. I just wanted to congratulate you on this achievement that you have. And he's like, oh, okay, fine, bye, Kar Goody, do you know who I am? I'm Naledi M. There's a lot of things you can do to me. You might, you know, woo me, sweep me off my feet. But definitely whatever you do, don't ever take me for a booze. Because in my mind, I'm like, you know what? That girl, because it doesn't make sense. If she had found out what Bzam had said about Goody, then why didn't she just send him a text and ask him, why would you do that? What the fuck is wrong with you? Move on. Leave me alone. I hate you. Why is this a phone call, and why is this phone call so brief? there are no texts, there is no nothing. But then again, we also need to be mindful of the fact that Goodie's also become this pathological, like, sociopath that we need to watch out for as well. So now we don't know who's who in the zoo and who's telling the truth, because it seems like, you know, Goodie, le ex, banale, this very committed relationship of delusion. Because now the only person who's been relinquished and the only person who's been absolved, that's what I'm trying to look for, is Bzam. And Bzam, to be very discreet, just doesn't want anything to do with them or their situation. But now what they're doing is becoming very childish, immature, and I then realize after that, like, no man, I don't have time for this. I genuinely don't have time for this. Like, this is the ghetto. I don't know what you guys are doing, but it's get back together or leave each other alone, but leave us alone in the process, you know? Because I felt like she was trying to play one game to Bzam and then trying to play another game to Goodie, but then we need to also take into consideration that Goodie probably made that shit up. He probably never even called her, but then from the screenshot he sent me, they were on a call. So, we don't know who's lying, Your Honor. We really don't know who be lying. I mean, if I was his ex, if I was anyone's ex and I found out Jake is saying shit about me, I'm not going to have a phone call with you about anything. I'm going to text you and say, get my name out your motherfucking mouth. Keep my name out your motherfucking mouth, and I'm so serious. But then again, Goodie is a liar. But insane. So after that, what does Naledi do? She does things for the plot. She links up with Bzam. Was it ever really going to be a true story time if I didn't commit? But I'm mad at Bzam because I don't know what the truth is anymore. But now he's been absolved by this supposed girl who's also quite shady, because now she's doing this and then he's shady, and then like all of you are actually pissing me off, and this is ghetto. This is ghetto. But anyway, I link up with Bzam. I let him have his piece. And then he tells me his side of the story. And from his side of the story, it seemed a lot more logical and a lot more truthful and a lot more in terms of the timelines than what Goodie had told me. And I was quite surprised, because I was just like, I pegged Goodie to be a lot of things, but I didn't really peg him to be a liar, which would have been super naive on my part, because I saw all the red flags from everything that he was saying about, you know, my location and all of this, that this was something that I thought he was doing out of an insecurity from being cheated on by that ex. But it turns out that there are certain elements of what he told me that were not true. So now I'm just sitting there and I'm going, damn. And he told me everything from his side of the story about his interaction with Goodie. He then told me how he knows Goodie and how Goodie knew that Bzam ended up dating the ex. Whether the timelines were flaky about if the ex cheated on Goodie with Bzam or whatever the situation was, I think no one will ever really know that part except X. But what matters is that the timelines were interlinked at some point to the other. And I obviously try to make sense of why you didn't tell me on our first date. And he was like, I didn't want to seem like the shitty guy that was going to throw Goodie under the bus to get you. Like, no, I was never gonna do that, which is why I'm so surprised that he did that, because I'm a real nigga. I'm gonna gun for you, and if you like me, you like me. If you don't, I move on. Whereas Goodie obviously took the other alternative route, which I don't even think was a route he was thinking that he was taking. I think he had just felt triggered and trauma kicked in, and then he then told me what the situation was and why he was so upset about this person in question. So yeah, guys, that's what happened. That is exactly how Goodie, me, Bzam, and me came to an end. I cut the both of them off, and I went back to Adam. No, I didn't go back to him essentially, but I just told him everything that happened. This meal made up for all the pain and distress. I 100% support my cooking. Guys, this hot kitchen sauce is like the better version of Tabasco. Comment down below. Let me know what you thought of part 2. It was a mind fuck, but I didn't want to give it away on TikTok. But until then, I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in my next mukbang and story time.